Hi. So I was this is kind of like my I don't know area that I like to go to and just be by myself. But anyway, I was just thinking about a lot of different things and how God speaks to me in a lot of different ways, and I want to do another post about that. But um, one of the ways that He speaks to me is like He'll pop a song in my head. I've been feeling kind of like in a funk all day, and I'm like, what is wrong with me? And then, and I said that like out loud, and then this song pops in my head, and I'm not even gonna mention the song, but it's two songs actually. They popped in my head, and then I realized that later that today is the 17th year anniversary of my stepfather's death, and my mother mentioned that I think yesterday when we talked, but I just kind of forgot about it. And then I was still just kind of feeling a little funky or a little bit down. And then, the songs that remind me of him in that time frame when he died, it all just came flooding back. And I was just like, oh, like, okay. And so I wasn't like close to my father-in-law like that. I was already an adult and moved out and starting my own family by the time he and my mother well, in fact, they got together the year I left for college. And so I wasn't a part of that at all. But the thing that is on my mind is how with my stepfather, I remember, so he died from lung cancer, and what started out as lung cancer, and he knew all along that it was terminal, but we didn't. He kept that from everybody, and but it was bad. Like, you could tell it was really bad. I graduated college and came home to I went to college in Florida and went home to DC to help my mom because my grandmother had just passed. My grandfather wasn't doing that well, and my mother was dealing with my stepfather's illness, and I just wanted to go home and help her. And my husband we had planned on moving back like northward anyway. And so I was like, I'll go home, I'll get a better paying job than I could get in Florida, and I'll support us, and because we had our first little girl, and then I'll help my mom in the meantime. So one day, 17 years ago today, I get this call from my mother and my stepfather on a Thursday. I remember the day so well. He decided to he was like, I'm gonna go to the hospital. His belly, he was very thin, naturally anyway, and his belly was like just like kind of like puffy big, and it was not normal for him. And so he decided to go to the hospital. We should have known something was up with that, but he was pretty much going to the hospital to die, and he went to the hospital on the Thursday, and then a few days later, my mom, when she went to see him, he was on life support, and my mother was like, it was a shock to her because she was like, why didn't anybody call me and tell me what's going on? What happened was his phone line down in the basement was his like personal line. The hospital was calling that line. My mother didn't deal with that line at all, nor did she have I don't think she even knew like a passcode or whatever for getting voicemails and, you know, all that. So they were calling her on that line to tell him that, my mom, that he had taken a turn for the worse. She had no idea. Went to go see her husband one day, and he's on life support. And so, and today is also my uncle's birthday. And I was just thinking about how my mom, she called me, and I was praying the whole way there. And it was just sad. And the day before yesterday, so the day before he passed was his daughter's birthday, my stepfather's daughter. And so yesterday was her birthday, and then, you know, today is the anniversary of her dad's death. And it was just, the whole thing was sad, but it was sweet in that my mom was on one side of his bed and I was on the other side, and we were both each holding one of his hands, and surrounded by a lot of family. My mom's siblings were all there, his siblings were there, his mother was there, and they pulled the plug and he passed. And so I'm bringing this up because I was thinking about him. When I think about him, I think about how there was one moment. Okay, so I always knew that I had this thing. I didn't know what to call it. I didn't know it had a name or anything like that. And it just was, you know, that I'm a prophetic person, right? I had no idea. And there were certain things that I sensed about my I keep wanting to say father-in-law, about my stepfather. I bite my cheeks. My cheeks are fat. But anyway, there's certain things that I felt about him, but I never really said anything or did anything about what I was feeling when I was around, because I lived in Florida, you know, at first. And by the time I came to DC, it was April, and he died in June. And so I remember one time when I think I was visiting DC from Florida, and I remember going into the basement. He used to, like, that was his spot, like his area, his man cave, you know, the basement. And I remember going down there to get something and then passing back through. And as I passed through, I don't even know what made me stop and say this. It was one of those foreshadowing kind of things. But I looked at him and I said, JB, you know you're not alone, right? And because I just felt real strongly that that's what he felt. And so I looked at him and I said that, and he looked at me. It was like a little child. And he said, I'm not. And I was like, no, you're not by yourself in this. And that moment just, I don't know, pops up in my head off and on. It just does. And I think about it and I'm just like, Lord, he really did think he was all alone. And, you know, I don't know the extenuating circumstances that led up to his feeling like he was alone, but it was so much more. I can say this, and I don't know this from talking to my mom. My mom can tell me now if she sees this video, but it was so much more than his having cancer and dealing with that in that moment. It was entirely a loaded thing for him to say, I'm not, you know, like, Jesus. I just, even now, that just like strikes me and like makes me want to cry. And so I guess like the point in all this is just to encourage you and myself, like, let's not miss it when it comes to people. And it's not that I felt like I totally missed it with him, but yeah, there were things that I could have said that I didn't, things that I could have done that I didn't do. But there were things that I did too. Like my stepfather, he knew I loved him. I made sure that he used to drink that nasty Ensure because that was all he could really get down. Ensure and bananas. And from the time I like went back home in April until the day he died, I made sure he never had to buy a banana or Ensure. I kept him stocked with those things. And he was not one to, be all, I love you. I never heard him say that or, nothing like that. But the way that I knew that man loved me something fierce was when every time I was about to leave to go back home to Florida, when we would hug, his hugs said everything his lips ain't say. And I was just like, the very first time I hugged him, I was like, whoa, like, because I'm a seer, and seers feel, see, touch, know, like all the 5 senses and some extra stuff. And so I was just like, oh my gosh, like I was struck, with his love for me. I didn't know, because he wasn't like a mushy kind of guy like that at all. No way, shape, or form. So, we showed our love in the ways that, I don't know, at that time, that's what we did, whatever. But, I just feel like, I don't want to go through the, shoulda, woulda, couldas, with him, because I can't. He's not here anymore. But, I have set myself, to not ignore when I see people standing in front of me who are obviously, to me, hurting. And so many things. Like the other day they had this flip-flop sale at Old Navy, and my girls all love those. So I went and got them some flip-flops. I got everybody a couple pairs. And when I stood in the line, I'm like, I watch everything, and I'm watching the girl. It was one girl checking everybody out on a Saturday. Like, really? And, excuse me. And of course, the store is pretty packed. And I don't even know why. No, only reason I was in there on a Saturday was because I happened to be in that area going to another store, and I was like, yeah, they having a flip-flop sale. Let me go on over there, because I don't go to no stores when everybody and their mama gonna be there. No thanks. So anyway, I'm in the store, I'm looking at her. She is like beat down, like in her spirit. She's like not even tired physically, but just inside, and I'm looking at her, and then this other girl who worked there saunters up, and she's like, do you need me? And I'm like, girl, if you don't get yourself over there to that daggone register and help, like you at work, ain't you? I'm thinking this. And the girl, I didn't see her reply to her, but she was like, do you really need me? And I was like, really? You one of them? Like, so she goes, and the two of them are starting, ringing people up. So I, of course, end up in this first girl's line, and when I go up, she's ringing up my stuff, and then at some point I saw her quickly wince in pain, and I looked at her and I said, you okay? And she was like, yeah, I'm fine. And I looked at her tag, and I said her name. I said, you're lying, you ain't fine. She just smiled, and I was like, give me your hand right quick. And so she gave me like one hand, and I just said a really quick prayer over her, or just declare healing over her. And then I looked at her, and I just started to like get just information and all from God, like just download stuff to me. And so I started to tell her stuff. And the way God does it with me is usually he'll have me tell a person something about them that I would have no way of knowing, because I don't know them. I never met them before. And and then segue into what he wants to do with and for them, and whatever. And so I did that with her, and I'm not gonna share like everything I said and all that, but because that ain't none of your business. You wasn't there. You should have been there. Got yourself some flip-flops or something. But anyway, no, I'm like simple. So I said things to her, and I need to keep from crying. So I said all this stuff to her, and she was like tearing up, and I could see out of the corner of my eye the other young lady. Unfortunately, it was a situation where she could hear what I was saying to her, and she was totally dropping them eaves. She was all up in our conversation. But so I like spoke over the girl, like just blessed her, and just encouraged her, and it was wonderful. And I laughed at her because she said, now you come up here and in 30 seconds you telling me all about my life. And I was like, I hear from God, because I was like, I don't know you. And we just laughed and everything. And by the time I left her line, she felt better. She felt better. I could see she felt better physically too, because she was in pain. Something was going on with her. And I say that though just to say that let's just not ignore it. We know we can sense when something is not well with a person, and when something's going on. Let's make time for each other, because people are important. People are very important. And I wish I had done more to encourage and uplift my stepfather, because I love him. And it really hurt and touched my soul to know that he felt alone. And the truth is, we're never alone. None of us are ever alone, and I just pray that if you're in that space right now where you're feeling like you're alone, know that you're not, and that you have people who care for you. You have a whole just there's so many that are for you, and you're not in this alone. You're not like worthless. You're here because God couldn't and didn't want to imagine a world without you. Plain and simple. He wanted you, and you're here. So to me, anybody that I see that automatically makes you like VIP, because you're here. He saw fit to create you. So that's it for now. Just want to encourage you to not just let people just walk by you and you see that they're beat down, because it can make a huge difference in someone's life, and it makes you feel good too. So I feel like oftentimes when I seek to bless others, I feel more blessed than them, especially when I'm able to say things to them about their lives that I honestly would have no way of knowing other than God is speaking to me. And that is humbling on several fronts, because he's picking that person out, specifically, and he's choosing to speak to them through me. Like, wow, who am I, So uplift somebody, encourage somebody today, especially, people that, even if it's just a smile, or somebody you think they look cute today, their hair look nice, or anything, encourage them, tell them they look cute. It don't take nothing to do that. And you have no idea how far that could go with a person. You don't know. So all right, I'm gonna end this video now because I have spoken long enough. See you soon. Bye.